sometimes we need to sit back and look at the things that we do, whether they are right or wrong, and not only follow what is happening next door, but read and get this information directly from the credible source. So there are training that are happening on MFL. We are receiving a lot of complaints from the public, and we know you're doing a great job. Please attend these sessions. They are running on Tuesdays on MFL, and Z will share the link during the course of this session if you are involved in the vaccination program, because we know you are doing a great job there, but just one pharmacy that failed to do something that is readily available out there to the public because they are on social media, they are quick to run to pharmacy council and complain about this. So let's be proactive and make sure that we do our work diligently. So with those few words, I would want to thank each and every one of you that have made time to come and listen to us. This is just the first one. We are going to focus mostly on inspections and self-inspections, but as the year unfolds, we are going to look at other aspects of GPP so that we continue becoming the best in this health platform. For those who have attended our previous conference, you heard the minister when the minister was talking about pharmacy, that he is very, very proud, because that is the area where even when the reports are being required, we are quick to say we have a great compliance, we are upholding GPP. Out there, when we are invited internationally, we are proud to say more than 60% of our facilities are grade A, and more than those that are not are working very hard toward getting there. So enjoy the workshop. We're hoping you'll ask as many questions as possible. I know that there is some limitation with time that might be made available because of some of the activities that are happening, but safe to say, this is just the first. The benefit from the COVID is these Teams meetings that allow us to be able to serve you. We are here to serve you, and we are here to continuously raise the flag of pharmacy above, higher in all the professionals. Thank you so much, Z and Precious, and I hope you are able to support the pharmacists, the RP, responsible pharmacists, with all the questions that are coming through. Thank you.
Thank you, Mama Gwen. Over to you, Precious.
Thank you, COO. Thanks, Z. So mine is to take you through a number of slides that we've prepared on the topic of pharmacy inspections. And at the end of the slides, we will then feature any questions that you might have in relation to this topic. My presentation will basically take the form as appears on the screen. I will touch on the legislative background, why we do inspections, the inspection process as it is now, pharmacy grading, the self-inspection that we've introduced earlier this month, and how are you able to reset your question when you are actually doing your self-inspection. And we'll just direct you on where to find general information on our website. So a bit of background in terms what is required of Pharmacy Council as a body. You will know that we are mandated as the South African Pharmacy Council in terms of the Act, the Pharmacy Act, to ensure that any services provided at the different pharmacy premises, whether in the public or the private sector, those services are of an acceptable, universally acceptable standard. So how do we ensure this? We actually have to now conduct pharmacy premises inspections through the inspectors that we appoint, and this we do in terms of Section 38A of the Act. So when the inspectors come to conduct inspections, they need to check whether your practice or your pharmacy or institution is still providing pharmaceutical services in line with GPP. And in doing that, we then are comforted that things or the services provided from your pharmacy or conducted are within the acceptable standard. So the inspection process as it is currently, I'm sure most of you as RPs are aware that we will then schedule an inspection and allocate an inspector that will come to your pharmacy for a particular inspection, bearing in mind that there are different types of inspections that we can commission. Once we've allocated that inspector, we then expect that they will come and conduct the inspection. At the end of each inspection, all the inspectors are actually expected to give us a report as the Office of the Registrar. That is when we will then evaluate that report and release the grade based on the findings that the inspector would have reported to us. We then send that to each RP to then make their own comments in a form of an improvement plan. So whatever shortcomings the inspector would have brought to our attention in the report, we then send those out to you to say, this is what was found to be a shortcoming. Please respond in terms of what you are going to do about it. Once we receive that improvement plan, we then evaluate it. In cases where there is a need to actually review the grade based on what you tell us, regarding each shortcoming, we will then review the grade accordingly. But in some instances, there probably isn't a need to review that grading as it was released. So in the middle of this cycle, we are then expecting you as a responsible pharmacist to conduct self-inspections on or by the 1st of March annually. So the self-inspection is basically aimed at preparing yourself for an event that an inspector comes, you are always ready, and it actually gauges how well your services are in terms of GPP compliance. Now, the process of inspections can be divided into two areas. Basically, pre the inspection and post the inspection. So what we expect pre the inspection, before we actually send out an inspector to come and conduct the inspection, we expect that you would have done this self-inspection. You will be conversant with the questionnaire that the inspector will be using, because fortunately, the self-inspection questionnaire that appears and that you will have access to is the same as what the inspector would be using when they conduct the inspection. So once you've done your self-inspection, or hopefully by the time you've done your self-inspection, we then are able to schedule an inspection and allocate an inspector. So how do you know that you are due for an inspection? This information is also available on our website. So if you go onto the SAPC website, you are able to click under the tab of registered organizations. Under that, you should be able to find pharmacy inspections. If you click on pharmacy inspections, you then have an option to click on the tabs, and one of the tabs there is the tab of due for inspection. That tab will then prompt you to click and enter your Y number, which will then indicate when are you due for your next inspection. So it's a way of us being able to alert you that 2022 or 2023 or whenever you should be getting an inspector coming around. Now I'm going to move on to the self-inspection part of things. So remember I said pre-inspection, we expect that you would have done your self-inspection. How do you then access this self-inspection? You need to log on to the secure site of the website. So you use your profile as you would have been given as an RP by Pharmacy Council. When you log on, it will then give you all the options as appearing there. But the tab that will have your self-inspection is the Practice tab. So if you click on the Practice tab, you will get all the options there for recording your practice processes, My Pharmacy, online inspection, your guidelines, and there you will find your self-inspection. So once you click trying to access the self-inspection, it will prompt you to move on, and the questionnaire will then appear. You will then see at the top that it will prompt you to start the self-inspection. So you will then click, and the total sections that should be appearing on your self-inspection are 26. And the expectation is that you will honestly evaluate yourself. How well are you doing in relation to each question that appears there, and honestly say whether you are compliant or not yet compliant. At the end of, or before I go to the end, what some of the pharmacists have indicated to us since the system started, or the self-inspection requirement started, was that some questions, you find that when they go in and they click under self-inspection, only 2 sections or 1 section appears. So there is a need to actually reset the questionnaire so that you are able to access all the sections as required. So the next few slides will basically talk to how you then reset your questionnaire should you find that you are unable to access all the sections. Okay, let me just move this. Oh, sorry about that. I will go back. Okay, so basically, if you want to reset your questionnaire, you are then expected to click on inspection grade. The inspection grade will lead you to the next tab that gives you an option to reset your questionnaire. And then it will ask you, please note, by clicking Reset Assessment Questionnaire, all assessment answers will be removed. So you should be aware that once you click on Resetting Self-Assessment, you would expect it to then to restart the whole self-inspection. So that is basically all on the self-inspection that is available on the secure side. Now, the inspector will then come and conduct the inspection, and hopefully whatever you have achieved on your self-inspection would be reflected by the inspection results from the external inspector sent by council. So at the end of the inspection conducted by council, we do require colleagues to actually go back on the secure side and do a self-inspection survey. So this survey is aimed at you giving us feedback in terms of how the inspection was. Are there any concerns that you want to raise regarding the inspector's conduct? So you are at liberty to actually raise anything that you would want us to look at in terms of improving and so forth. And this is not really forthcoming. So please, responsible pharmacists, go back once you've had your inspection through the inspector, go back and give us feedback regarding that particular inspection through the inspection survey that is available also under the secure site under the practice tab. Now, once we receive that inspection report from our inspectors, we then have a responsibility to evaluate that report. So we look at what the inspector has said, Remember, the inspector, as they are doing the inspection, the expectation is that they are collecting evidence. So whatever shortcomings they come across in your pharmacy, they will attach whatever evidence they've found to collaborate what they've indicated in the report. We then, once it's been evaluated, we then release the grading. You will then have an opportunity to look at what grade you were found, and respond to the shortcomings with a concrete improvement plan in terms of addressing whatever shortcomings have been identified. So on receipt of your improvement plan, we will evaluate, and then we will review the grade where necessary, or not review the grade accordingly. What is important in terms of the improvement plan that I need to mention here is that if you really are convinced that your grading could improve, we definitely also do need evidence from your side in terms of why the shortcoming was there and how you've addressed it, if you have, so that you are able to then receive the correct grading from what you have done in terms of the shortcomings. This is basically how you are able to access that report. So once the inspection has been done, you are also at liberty to view that report on the secure site under inspection documents, and reflect on what would be highlighted there by the inspector. This slide basically talks to the different pharmacy gradings that we currently have. So I'm sure all of you know that if you are grade A, which is what we want to actually get to, you will have a score of between 90 and 100%. And there would be minor deficiencies basically in terms of the shortcomings. And then that automatically translates to you being inspected on a 3-yearly cycle. If you are grade B, we would have found to have been good, and there would have been major deficiencies, and you would be between 80 and 90%, 89%, and that translates to 2 years or 2-yearly inspection cycle. Grade C is what we do not want to see. If you are grade C, then it means there are serious or there are critical deficiencies that were observed during the inspection. You either are between 1 and 79%, and that means on a yearly basis, we will be sending an inspector out to check how far you are in terms of addressing whatever findings or shortcomings you would have been found to have. And obviously, if you are grade C, then you would not have any approval to train pharmacy support personnel or interns. If you've been found to be grade D, then it means that pharmacy, at the point that the inspector came, it was not operational. And we do implore responsible pharmacists to actually speak to their owners. If the pharmacy is no longer operational, it is the duty of the owner to inform us as council to say this pharmacy is no longer operational, and so that we can actually deal with it accordingly on our registers. So this slides talk to how you complete your improvement plan. Again, maybe some of you might not be aware, it's also available on the secure site. And if you click on awaiting improvement plan, you are then able to be taken through all the shortcomings or the findings that you need to respond to, attach your evidence, and submit it through to us for evaluation. So that slide just basically is a continuation of how to start your improvement plan. And I've spoken to how we evaluate your response once you've done your improvement plan. And the last few slides, just for us to know, or for responsible pharmacists to know, that on our website, there is all the information that you need regarding inspections. And this information you can find under the general information or under inspections, where you can view this inspection process, your inspection types, what type of inspections can be conducted by council, the grading as briefly discussed earlier, what are the requirements for premises approval and how to go about it, when are you due for an inspection, as I indicated earlier, the different types of questionnaires in relation to what type of pharmacy or category you are in, and if you want to log in and search for other things, it's all there for you to read up on and be conversant about in terms of inspections. This is also just a continuation of where everything is on the website. And Neo, I think we are at the point of taking questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Precious. We have a question from Anonymous. It says, not all questions are relevant for the manufacturing industry, e.g. certain books are name badges. If you mark it as no, it reduces your grading. Can this be updated on the self-assessment form?
Okay, my understanding is that each category of pharmacy has its own inspection questionnaire. So, and these inspection questionnaires are continuously being reviewed. So as the inspectors go out, they come back to the office with information in terms of what is relevant, what is really not relevant for each type of category, and we continuously are looking into reviewing them. So I suppose that suggestion will probably be, if it is brought to our attention like it is now, we would look into how we then improve on each questionnaire. But yes, definitely the inspection questionnaires are not cast in stone, so we are continuously reviewing them as things improve and as inspection officers come and give us feedback on those. Thank you, Neo.
Thank you, Precious. The next question is there a limited period in which to complete the inspection survey? I was unable to access after I submitted my improvement plan.
Yes, unfortunately, we expect that you would do that inspection survey as soon as your inspection is conducted. However, if you do communicate with us, we will then be able to reactivate it so that you are able to submit your inspection survey. As these are the timelines with regards to submitting the survey, maybe you can assist me with that. But we are able to actually reactivate it for you, and you are able to submit.
We have set a time of 7 days for the output.
As these are the timelines with regards to submitting the survey, maybe you can assist me with that. But we are able to actually reactivate it for you, and you are able to submit.
And it's closed. We have set a time of 7 days for the output.
As these are the timelines with regards to submitting the survey, maybe you can assist me with that. But we are able to actually reactivate it for you, and you are able to submit.
Graded C.
And it's closed. We have set a time of
great question.
7 days for the output.
As these are the timelines with regards to submitting the survey, maybe you can assist me with that. But we are able to actually reactivate it for you, and you are able to submit.
And it's closed. We have set a time of 7 days for the output.
As these are the timelines are found to be non-compliant to any one of those 10 questions, you will automatically then become a grade C, regardless of what percentage you find yourself. So it is quite important for the RP to be conversant with which questions are those and ensure that you do comply around those 10 non-negotiable questions. Thanks, Newo.
The next question is from Tabo. Does it mean if you have a grade A or obtaining B training accreditation is automatic, i.e. is no need to apply for training or tutoring? Sorry, I don't.
Yeah, no, I hear the question. Thanks, Newo. So you are still required to apply for premises approval. You are still required to apply for your tutors to be able to train. The link between the inspection, grading, and the training is that when you are either A, you then get approved for the duration, the 3-year cycle that you would have been found according to your grading, as well as for B. So there is still a requirement to apply for premises approval. Thanks, Newo.
Precious, can I just jump in here quickly?
Yes, Aziza.
I can't find the hand on this, the way this is set up. I just want to go to the previous question about you getting a high percentage and yet still found to be grade C. So Precious was correct in saying that you were probably found non-compliant in one of the 10 non-negotiable questions. Also, those are those questions. We've got a document called Conditions under which the grading of a pharmacy can be reviewed. It is only on those questions that the grading may change. For example, if you don't have your license displayed in the pharmacy at that time, but you have it somewhere, if you give us evidence that the license, you do have the correct license and then it is displayed, we may review that grade. So it's not, the grade won't be reviewed for any other non-compliant questions except those that are in the document that says conditions under which a pharmacy grade may be reviewed. The document's available on the website. Thanks, Precious. Sorry about that.
No, thanks, Aziza. Thank you. That's a very important point you are making. Newo, next question.
Thank you, Precious. A question from Anonymous. There is a discrepancy between actual date of inspection and date of inspection on the inspection report and grading certificate. Despite raising this as a query with council, this has not been resolved.
Okay, so this is a specific case that we would need to investigate on our side, Newo. I know that at the end of this, you will share with the RPs my direct email so that such can be investigated from our side, and we can definitely correct that. Thank you. Next question, Newo. I can't seem to hear Newo.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Mashishi, oh, now we can hear you.
Okay, a question from Nozipo. I did the inspection, but there is no submit button. What am I supposed to do?
Thank you, Nozipo. You're actually not the only one. So we are in the process of trying to correct that. But as long as you've done all the sections, we on our side are able to see that you have completed the self-inspection. So the developers of our system are actually looking into that, and it will be sorted out. Thank you, Newo.
Sindisile, there are questions in the manufacturing pharmacy SI questionnaire regarding the actual inspection and inspector details. How do we complete this section if the inspection has not taken place?
Can you repeat that, Newo? I'm not sure if I caught it. You're saying that there are questions that are related to what?
To the manufacturing pharmacy.
Yes.
SI questionnaire regarding the actual inspection and inspector details. How do we complete this section if the inspection has not taken place?
Okay, because it's a self-inspection, my understanding is that you wouldn't have an external inspector that is doing it. So you wouldn't be required to complete that part of the self-inspection. But we will go back and check what is being referred to in this case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Me again?
Yes, Aziza.
Well, they can just mark it compliant, just for purposes that they will be then able to submit. Because if there isn't a section that's completed, the system would not allow for it to be submitted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aziza. Anonymous, once you've completed the self-inspection, when do you reset the questionnaire? The following year?
Okay, no, the resetting of the questionnaire basically has to do with if, for example, there's some error in terms of you accessing the whole questionnaire. So I made an example of some RPs, when they log on, they only then see only 1 or 2 sections. So then it means you need to reset it so that you are able to access the whole questionnaire. So you don't just reset the questionnaire if there's no need to. When you find that when you try to do the self-inspection, you are not able to access the whole questionnaire or there's some error that is happening, then you reset the questionnaire. But obviously, we then expect that on a yearly basis, you will then do that self-inspection. And again, maybe just to add to that, Neo, the expectation is that if an RP is appointed at a new pharmacy, you are expected as the new RP to complete a self-inspection within 3 months of your appointment. So that new RP would then have to start a self-inspection, reset whatever that was probably there, and do a new self-inspection. Okay. Thank you.
Me again. Precious, the system should really, after submission of the your annual self-inspection, it should reset for you to submit the following year. But say you come January, February, or March even, or not even March, it's due by 1st March. But you come to the following year and you still can see the old one that you've submitted, then please reset as well. So we will fine-tune that system. But we found that earlier this year, it was still reflecting the old one that you submitted. It didn't automatically reset, so you are required then to reset it. Thank you.
Thanks, Aziza.
Thank you, Aziza. A question from Anonymous. On my profile, I can see my recording my licenses. What is that about?
Okay, Aziza, can you take that one?
I don't really know what the question is.
Neo, please repeat.
Yeah.
The question is, on my profile, I can see my recording / my licenses. What is that about?
Oh, on the practice tab. So if you have applied for a pharmacy or for a new pharmacy, a recording of a relocation of a current pharmacy, and so on and so forth, you will be issued a new license. So if you click that tab, you should see the records of the pharmacies that come under your name. If you're a group owner, there'll be a whole lot. But if you just the RP or an owner of a single pharmacy, you will be able to see that pharmacy that you've applied for. And once the application, recommendation, and so process has been completed, you would be able to record for that pharmacy from that tab. So if there's nothing under that, then you don't have anything in process. Thank you.
Thank you, Aziza. A question from Anonymous. Can the books be reviewed in order to be appropriate for the specific sector? Are the electronic copies acceptable where available for all books?
Okay, I know that we are in the process of reviewing all reference material. Aziza was actually started the process with regards to that. So we will have that review finalized through the different task teams and up to the committee. But my understanding is that you have the inspector should be able to accept if you are able to show them that you have electronic access to the books that are required to be there. Thank you.
Very precious. Yes, the matter about the reference material is with the task team currently. So it is being reviewed, and it may be that the outcome is that you have reference material for a specific category of pharmacy. We don't know yet. But right now, you're still required to adhere to those that's on the list. You don't need hard copies. It's part of, it is published, and that an electronic version is acceptable as well. So if you need guidance on that, please contact your societies. They may be able to help you with electronic versions of the reference material that's required. Can I just add one more point? Sorry, we find often that people don't have, they say we don't have a comprehensive complementary reference list for complementary medicines. So this is dependent on what complementary medicines you would have in your pharmacy. So if you say, for example, I didn't really want to use trade names, but if you only keep, say, herbal products, not the salts, for example. So have reference material for those products that you stock in your pharmacy. And comprehensive is, you know, there's enough information about that product interacting with allopathic medicines, interacting with other medicines, what are the effects and so forth. And the inspectors should, that should be acceptable. So whatever product you stock in your pharmacy, you should have information regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you, Aziza. Melanie is asking, is it possible to improvement grading with self-inspection if improvements are submitted? Let me repeat that again. Is it possible to improve grading with self-inspection if improvements are submitted?
Melanie, unfortunately, we're not yet at that point. Remember, self-inspections we are introducing now. I know that in our previous webinar, the COO did mention that we want to get to a point where most of our pharmacies or majority of our pharmacies are grade A, so that through a self-inspection, we can be comfortable that things are still going right, and we actually just send an inspector, you know, periodically where it's necessary. But currently, we are not in a position to use a self-inspection as what your grading would be on our records. Thanks, Newa.
Thank you, Precious. Anonymous is asking, this isn't particularly to the prevention, but if the pharmacy is closing down, what do I need to make sure is in order, especially with counsel before the pharmacy is closed, especially with Schedule 6 medication and the register?
Aziza, can you take that one?
You give me the difficult things to answer, Precious. So if a pharmacy is closing down and it's not being sold, so the stock and etc. is not being transferred, it is a difficult one. Comes yonder. I think that the medicines that are there must, I don't really know. I think what's not used and stuff like that must go for destruction, especially the highly scheduled medicines, because it can't just lie somewhere. I suppose the stock you would be able to sell off. I'm not so sure. Zianda?
Thank you. Morning, colleagues, again. Certainly, the stock is sold off, but your high scheduled substances, I would strongly recommend, because that has to align with the Medicines and Related Substances Act and the general regulations thereof, in ensuring whether it can be returned to the wholesale, where it will be, if it's still within a expiry date, and if the wholesale that you bought it from is going to take it back. However, SAPRA would definitely have proper directive on what to do with especially your scheduled substances that are in your pharmacy. That's if you are not selling the pharmacy. If you are selling the pharmacy, we're taking it that the new owner is going to buy that pharmacy, and you would do a change of ownership. Please ensure that the new owner is applying for that change of ownership. We are finding a few, not a lot, of pharmacies where you now say, but I sold that pharmacy 2 years ago, but the new owner has never applied with the Department of Health to change that ownership. And if you are closing the pharmacy, it's also important, by the way, Pharmacy Council to complete the necessary form for pharmacy closure so that it gets off the books. Obviously, you'll be required to make sure that you are in good standing, there's no amounts owing. Finance definitely would have to look at that. And hopefully there's also no professional conduct matters against that pharmacy that need to be closed off. But yes, with the stock, SAPRA would give proper directive on the writing off of that stock if it needs to be written off, so that you are not found keeping stock in your bag, in your garage, shame, because now you've closed off your pharmacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from Anonymous. I still need clarity on the grading outcome. The pharmacy was inspected and got 94.6% and compliant with all non-negotiable. How come the outcome was a grade C? The only section that the pharmacy got a C was on the counseling area where there was no private room and the dispensing window did not have a hatch.
Can I answer?
You may, Zianda.
Thank you. All right. It may be, there's two ways. There is a document on the website again that talks to the grading methodology. It's on the open site so that the profession knows how grading happens. There is the 10 questions. I won't go through that one. I think that one is very clear to us. But there's also the total per section, right? There's also a total per section of questions. And those have a minimum that you may obtain. In exam language, you would call it a sub-minimum pass mark. If a section was supposed to be 90%, and in total, after answering those questions, it's 89%, it will be a grade C, because you are below the total value in that section. However, because it sounds a little bit more specific as well, we would request for that question to get the Y number now through yourselves and let us investigate the inspection report in itself. But it's one of those two. It's either non-negotiable or the total per section. So that may have been the issue, but let's not speculate. Can we go into the actual example with the Y number? Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from Anonymous again. Besides downloading the assessment once done, how do we confirm on the system that our assessment is loaded by you? I do not see a self-inspection history.
Aziza?
At the moment, we can only draw reports on pharmacies or RPs that have submitted self-inspections for their pharmacy. I think we need to work on reflecting it on your side as well, similar to those like the CPDs that you see and those that are archived and what was done in previous years. So we will be working on the system so that the history stays there and you as the RP are able to see it as well. Right now, it's only visible to the office and it's via a report that we draw whenever we need to. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Newa, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Aziza. I have requested an exemption from keeping the books, but to date, I have not received a response from council. How do I escalate this?
Can I take it?
Yes, Aziza.
So at the moment, we're not granting any exemptions until that the review is completed. So you must at least have electronic access to all the reference books, all the categories of pharmacy. You don't have to spend a lot of money for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Aziza. A question from Tabo. For pharmacies that are grade D, close without notifying the council, can any member, e.g. a landlord, of public outside previous owner notify council?
Thanks for that question, Tabo. Remember, we have a relationship with the owner as they are part of what we have on our registers, and they then have the legal obligation to inform us. However, Zianda, I would be guided whether third-party information like a landlord is sufficient for us to effect a closure. Maybe Zianda can assist me on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Precious. You may report it. The due process that we follow to close will then be followed, because then we will want to know from the owner, that is the pharmacy, really closed, right? If we have gone in already and the inspector had found it a grade D, it's already being processed. With the law, you can't just shut it off. You do need to make certain notifications to the owners, etc., to say, is it indeed closed, up until you come to the point of closure. But feel free to notify council, but the due process will be followed by council before that, if a closure is eventually effected and the DG is notified that that there's no longer a pharmacy in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A follow-up question on the grading. If the pharmacy gets all non-negotiables right with an overall score of 94.6%, how come it is still a grade C?
No, I think maybe on that one, because I thought Zianda had extensively and Aziza had extensively tried to explain, we would then maybe have to delve into the actual inspection report. So again, can I request that we get the Y number, and on our side, we then will go into what exactly happened in that case. Thank you.
Precious,
Yes,
can I just play quickly from the regrading methodology document? Maybe it will take about 2 minutes or so. And that
you want to share it
a bit further? Yeah.
You can share.
Okay, thank you. So is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see it, Aziza.
Okay, I'm just going to go one step back. So people can go onto the website and go under registered organizations, pharmacy inspections, You can check your due for inspections and so forth. But under the overview section, we have a document called inspection grading methodology. So I've opened up the document here, went to the section on the questions and the compliance value and weightings of it. So when we did the survey, this is in 2017, 2018, this is the end result of the survey, and the members of the profession opted to have the different weightings for these sections. These are the 26 sections in the questionnaire. There's only one section where the profession said that the minimum compliance value should be 70%, which then has a weighting of 1. So there are just 3 or 4 questions in this section. So if you get 1 wrong, your percentage falls down to, I think, 67%, 66.66. There's 3 questions. So automatically you will get a grade C because of any. If you get below the percentage of the section, if you get below the minimum required, so if you get 69 here, you'll be a grade C. If you get a 79 on the overall calculation on the section that weighs 80, you will also get a grade C, and so forth. In the sections that weigh 90%, there are 5. If you get 89% or less, you will be a grade C. So you can get 100% in all the sections. But if your total weight for the total percentage for any of the sections that have, say, 80% or whatever, if you get just a little less than that, you will be a grade C. The other reason for grade C, as discussed before, was that the 10 non-negotiable questions. So you can get 99.9% everything correct, but you have 1 question where it's non-compliant and it's a non-negotiable, it will result in a grade C. I hope this clarifies matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Aziza. A question from Fezi. How long does it take to receive feedback from council after an inspection?
So when an inspection is submitted, so the inspector is expected to give us the report within 7 days of having conducted that inspection, and then we are expected to evaluate it and give you feedback no later than 14 days. I know that there have been instances that we go beyond that, and the office is working on trying to improve on us releasing the grade accordingly.
Thank you, Precious. A question from Anonymous. Could the SAPC give the RPs a recommendation/selection of alternative medicine books?
Aziza,
I think, oh, okay. Zianda?
Thank you. With the work that the task team is going to do on the reference material as commissioned by the practice committee, the task team has been commissioned to look at not perhaps stating a book where applicable, and I say where applicable because at times the specific is what is there in the profession internationally. So an international benchmarking would be conducted and look at what is best, 1 for each category of pharmacy, and number 2, as the RPs are saying, options. Council does not prescribe, again, unless there is only that 1 book in the market internationally. However, it would give a guide to say a book for pharmacology. But you must be able to show that when you need to reference and get the information that you need, you are able to assist the patient. Remember, the end product here is quality pharmaceutical services. So that will be the work of the task team. And after that, council would be able to then give guidance to the profession. And also remember, GPP is minimum standard. If what you have is greater than what is in the book, then that is also sufficient. And you would not be penalized for having something that looks better, in the reference material section. And again, you may have it electronically or a hard copy. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from Anonymous. We have the same situation with the reference books. Our pharmacy is at an occupational health center, so we only treat adult patients for work-related injuries. We don't have any pediatric patients, but cannot mark the pediatric dosing guide as not applicable.
I think Zianda has tried to explain this one, Neo. We will be in contact with the profession regarding the requirement in terms of the books. So I don't know if Zianda, you want to add to what you've already said?
Yes, I did want to add. And this is specifically for the fact that the category of pharmacy, remember, even if we go through this exercise that the task team is going through now, there are 5 categories of pharmacies legislated. And in legislation with the 5 categories, there are services that are aligned to each category of those pharmacies. Because your license allows you that at any point, by the way, you may be offering a limited service today, but a business decision is taken tomorrow that no, in fact, because of the license we possess, we can offer more services. Things can change just like that, or a patient comes in, or the setup of that business changes, as I have mentioned. And so the prescriptive will be based on the service that is based on the license that you have. So it's not limited to the fact that you are in the occupational health space or any other space for that matter. I don't want to be picking on this one because there's nothing wrong with the service that's being offered there. But because of the license that you carry, it allows you and opens up that you may offer any service at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. Question from Nozipo. Isn't it possible to put the questions according to the hospital levels? Because I'm in a district hospital and some questions are not relevant.
Great question, Nozipo. In actual fact, this request has reached council. I'm happy to say that the primary health care questionnaire, we are currently looking into finalizing that at the level of a task team. So we are looking into addressing sector or level of health specific areas in terms of the questionnaires. So once that is finalized, our inspection officers will then have access to that and evaluate accordingly. Maybe Zianda, you can also add.
No, all I can say is it's a great consideration for the task team. It caught me by interest. Thank you.
Thanks, Zee.
Thank you, Zianda. Question from Anonymous. What counts as a major deficiency in wholesale pharmacy?
Okay, Aziza, I wouldn't be able to answer that as I don't have any wholesale experience, but maybe Aziza, from your experience?
Maybe we should get an inspector to talk about that. That's an open question. Look at our grading methodology document, and maybe you'll be able to figure it out from there. I don't know if I'm answering this correctly. Any inspector can step in, perhaps?
No, it's fine, Aziz. I'll take it up.
Okay.
The GPP has minimum standards for each category of pharmacies. for each category of pharmacy, and again the aim of the self-inspection being that you get a fay with the actual GPP requirements or what the law requires. And so for you to comply, do the self-inspection. Do you have a quarantine area? Complies, does not comply? You can answer that for yourself. Objective, try as much as it is subjective, try as objectively as you can to answer the questions and go through the GPP. It will guide you whether you comply or you do not. And it will be tested by the inspector when the inspector arrives. Thank you.
Just to add as well, maybe to what Z has said, remember when you do the self-inspection, I mean, it's a way of you getting to find out what the inspector will actually be asking you when they are there. And I know that most of our inspectors, or all of them, we implore them to take the opportunity to teach as they're doing the inspection. So it would not just be a matter of them marking you down, but they are there, they will explain you know, why you are found to be non-compliant and what is it that you need to do to be compliant to that particular question. Thanks, and Newo.
Thank you, Precious. A follow-up question again. I also didn't hear the response on getting all non-negotiable rights with the overall score of above 90% because people were talking over each other. I'm sorry, I guess we're going to have to repeat that that answer again. I think some people couldn't hear it clearly.
Okay, Aziza, do you want to flag again? Because I think maybe it emanates from, yeah, it is in relation to what you had shared.
Okay, I'll share the document again. Just get there, sorry. I'm going to show the path as well, perhaps. So I suggest people read through this document on how great the grading score is done. I'm going to get to that where displayed. Sorry guys, there we go. These are the weightings and the sections that has that minimum compliance value, the weighted score, and I think I should have highlighted this little section here. So for a pharmacy to be declared compliant, the minimum score must be equivalent to or above the percentage compliance value per grouped section. The total percentage score per group section is in the percentage sum of all sections. You can read that, it sounds a bit technical, but if you just break it down, it's fairly simple there. So for a grade A, it's a pharmacy that complies with most of the GPP standards, minor deficiencies, and the grading score is 90 to 100. But this is subject to getting above 70 for the 70 section, above 80 for the 80% sections, and above 90 for the 90% section. Also, that not one of those questions that are non-compliant must be a non-negotiable one. So, so here we go. The pharmacy will be automatically graded C if it's found non-compliant, and these are the 10 and related questions that are non-negotiable. So I suggest you read through this document, and if it's still not clear, we presented this at workshops in 2019 before implementing it in the 2020 inspection questionnaire. You're welcome to write to us with specific questions regarding the grading methodology, and I suppose we we will handle each one. But if it's a general question on how the grading or the grading is calculated, I hope this document then addresses it. But if something is not clear, please drop us an email. I don't know if I should go further in, or is that sufficient, Precious, Yenda?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Aziza. Another question is, if you are a pre-May 2004 pharmacy, still awaiting your license from the Department of Health, how will that affect your grading?
Okay, so your license being available is one of the non-negotiable questions that we made reference to earlier. And remember when I spoke of evidence in terms of us being able to review the grading, and Aziza did mention that for us to review the grading is based on non-compliance or compliance to any of the 10. So if you are in the process of getting your license, you should have a case number that you can share with council to say, I did apply, I'm a pre-May 2003, and there is an application that I've started. This is the case number. When we evaluate that report, because remember the inspector needs to mark what they have found in the pharmacy. So they would probably, if there's no license that is available, they will then have to mark you down where there's where it's actually required. And when we evaluate that report and you've given us evidence that there is an outstanding case that you've lodged and we are on our side or the Department of Health is busy with it, we then can relook at that grading and mark you accordingly. So nothing stops you from giving us the information if you've actually done or taken steps to address whatever shortcomings you have identified. Thanks, Newa.
Thank you, Precious. Another question from Anonymous. We received a B grading. Thus, according to the SAPC, it should fall under major deficiencies identified. We did not have all the reference material, which are also not applicable to use in wholesale manufacturing. Thus, we do not use it, and contact details were not updated. Is this really a major deficiency? Especially again, when it comes to reference material, how can it be major if as a wholesale pharmacy, we do not use it? Can reference material not be updated to be wholesale applicable?
I think this is also a repetition of what we had earlier regarding what is relevant to each sector. I will re-emphasize that we currently have standardized questionnaires for each sector, and unfortunately the inspector cannot change the questions as they come to your particular premises according to what you would have or not have. So safe to say that we are in the process of reviewing the reference material in particular, as well as when questionnaires are being reviewed, such input is actually taken into account and task teams look at what is feasible and what is allowable by the law. Because remember, when we send an inspector out, we need to check whether what you are doing in that facility, whether it's wholesale, whether it's primary health care, you are in line with what is required according to GPP. So what you might think is not major, in actual fact, in the whole spectrum of things, it is from the side of council. But we do appreciate the input. As I've said already, we are reviewing the questionnaires from the input that you would have raised with the inspectors as they visit you, and whatever else that you can probably send as input on our platforms, the different platforms of council. We will take that into consideration as we review the questionnaires. So for now, what is appearing on the questionnaire is what the inspector would expect you to have. and hence the access to the self-inspection that prepares you for the day that the inspector comes. Thanks, Newa.
Thank you, Precious. How many sections are there supposed to be?
There are supposed to be 26 sections as indicated in my earlier slides. So that is why I said if there's, for any reason, you cannot access these sections, you then can reset the questionnaire and you should be able to access that. Thanks, Newa.
Thank you, Precious. A question from Facebook. Can you explain indemnity for all the pharmacy staff, i.e. pharmacists, qualified post-basic, learner basic?
Okay, Zianda, can you take that one? I know you have a good explanation for that.
All right, no, thank you, Precious. Colleagues, I actually want to go to the actual section. 3.5 of the GPP states, any person registered with the South African Pharmacy Council who performs one or more of the functions relating to the scope of practice of the category in which they are registered must be covered by their own indemnity insurance. We are health professionals. One professor one day said, while talking, that we manage useful poison. I found that a very interesting one. I keep on thinking about it, meaning whatever it is that you are administering, something could go wrong, right? Therefore, you need to be protected as such, which is what professional indemnity, is about. It's making sure that you are covered in case something goes wrong. We live in a country where for a while people were not so much complaining that I went to the pharmacy and I broke my leg while walking down from the door to the dispensary, and yeah, there was no sign and all those things, or I took this medicine and it made me sick. But we're seeing that, and that is a risk, by the way. So it's protecting yourself against the risk as a registered person to have professional indemnity. We do know that in the public sector, the government does make provision for professional indemnity for everyone that is employed because of the reason that they are health professionals. So it is important that you as the RP know about that professional indemnity. Know that all your staff members have been covered by that professional indemnity. And again, it's like insurance. You can drive your car for 5 years and no accident, but you still pay for that insurance. But we do need it. We are health professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from Facebook. Bria Brenda asks, what happens if you were found grade A during this monitoring inspection and you were only inspected, e.g. in March 2022? Then you apply for premises approval after August 2022. Then for how long will you be approved for training?
Thank you. I will take that one. Thank you for the question, Brenda. If you are inspected, after the inspection, once the grading is released, it's got an expiry time, as the table that Precious showed, 3, and 2. Let's stick to that because a person who's a grade C may not train. So if your grading certificate said, and I'm going to make an example, it's 2022, 2023, 2024, it's ending 31st December of 2024. When you're applying, whichever time of the year, if you select that you accept the end period of the grading, that is 31st December 2024, that will be the expiry or the end date for the premise being approved, if I'm making sense. So the RP, by the way, as they apply, they get given a choice. Do you accept? You've got a current active grading. It ends 31st December 2023, 2024, etc. Do you accept it? The RP will say yes. If they say no, they are selecting to have another inspection conducted. And that is the process that will be followed. So it's either what it is, when you were inspected, when that grading ends, it aligns with the premises approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question: who can we approach for books not being applicable for certain pharmacy sectors in order to be in agreement? E.g., what is the applicable in a hospital setting is not for manufacturer? Okay, I think this we also addressed. Another question, with regards to the complementary medicine, if we do not stock these, are we still required to have a complementary medicine textbook?
I think Aziza did explain this earlier as well, Neo, that what is on the inspection questionnaire will be expected to be what the inspector finds in the pharmacy. So whether they keep a complementary medication does not then negate the responsibility to have reference material. Thanks.
Thank you, Precious. We applied for our relocation of premises over a year ago with the SAPC and still have not received approval. The current address on the SAPC is our old address. Do I still complete the self-assessment? This would be in line as per my new address and not the address shown online on the SAPC website.
Yes, the self-inspection, we require you to do it, but I suppose as this is also specific to an application that you have outstanding with us, we would like to follow up on it. So if you could get the Y number, then I would be in a position to track what happened to your relocation application and assist in expediting that so that you have all your contact information updated accordingly. So please, Neo, if you could request that we have that Y number, and then from my side, would then try and assist in terms of the relocation application.
Thank you, Precious. I'll do that. Another question is, indemnity insurance for post-basic assistance, what options are available?
Back to you, Zianda.
Right, thank you. Please do contact your professional associations for those. Council does not offer any subscription to that. It is the professional associations. I know that there are private ones as well. You are free to choose whichever. Do make the research and choose. And choose the options that need to be followed. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. With respect to closure of the pharmacy, all I have to do is re-register as RP from the pharmacy. What needs to be done with the script? Can it be given to another pharmacy? The Schedule 6 register and Schedule 6 scripts. If the pharmacy stock isn't been brought over, what do I need to do as RP to make sure I'm following the correct procedure? To my capacity, what do I need to do and what needs to be done by the owners?
That was a very long question. Can you please repeat it?
Sorry.
Maybe, yeah, just take it a bit slow now so that I cover everything.
Cover everything. Okay. With respect to closure of the pharmacy, all I have to do is re-register as RP from the pharmacy. What needs to be done with the scripts that can be given to another pharmacy?
Okay. With a closure of the pharmacy, I would suppose that you would be informing your patients as such. Remember, the prescription belongs to the patient. So obviously, for continuing of pharmaceutical services, the patients must have their prescriptions back, unless you've got another branch where but still the patients must be informed. So I think the part of the prescriptions is really about informing your patient, and the patient has the choice of where they then want to go as their nearest pharmacy or where they choose to obtain such pharmaceutical services, since they had chosen yourself and you had decided to move. The next one.
The next part is, if the pharmacy stock isn't been brought over, what do I need to do as an RP to make sure I'm following the correct procedure? To my capacity, what do I need to do and what needs to be done by the owners?
What capacity is the RP, or what process is the RP supposed to follow?
Yes, I think that's what you're trying to say.
Okay, perhaps I'm not getting the question very clearly. However, the owners must apply for pharmacy closure, as I said, if they are not selling that pharmacy, so that the pharmacy is closed from the registers of the Pharmacy Council. And as previously said, to contact SAPRA to ensure of the process of what to do with the stock on hand, if there was stock that was in the pharmacy, to make sure that it is legally disposed of. Remember, we're still within legislation. If there is a change of ownership, again, the owner would need to ensure that the new owner, look, you can't force a person to do something, but the risk is that if in the registers of council, you still remain the owner, whereas you have long sold that pharmacy, it is that we will try to contact you. Yes, you will tell council that, no, I'm no longer the owner. Here is the proof that I sold the pharmacy, and you will be let go. But it is important that change of ownership and the recording of such license once it is obtained from the Pharmacy Council. I mean, once the license is obtained from DOH, to record that license with Pharmacy Council so that the details are updated to reflect the new owner. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from YouTube, Henny Neathling asks, please explain how digital scale has to be calibrated.
Oh, I was speaking and I was muted. Sorry about that, colleagues. Again, the issue of calibration, as per the GPP, it says that scales need to be calibrated annually. And the reason for that was that the scale must do what it purports that it is doing. And what I mean about that, I will come in with my prescription and you have to weigh some 200 grams of cream and mix it with 50 grams of that, etc. If that scale is not working properly because it is not calibrated, it will not do the work it's meant to do. Council notes that with technological advances, there are scales that either the manufacturer claims that they self-calibrate, and obviously they must prove that really that scale is calibrated, or it says that it must be calibrated every 3 years. And as such, the practice committee again has said to the task team to go in and review the standard about calibration of scales to take into consideration, to take into consideration the technological advances. However, the inspectors are then requested to then apply. You have to prove to the inspector that your scale is calibrated, that it is doing the function that it is meant to do, because now you have changed. You're no longer using, in the old days, there used to be the balance scales, and now there was the electronic ones which needed to be calibrated. These days, there's ones that are installed such that calibration is required every 3 years, and somebody once said to me it's cheaper to buy a new scale than to calibrate after 3 years because the cost is almost the same. So we will see a change in that standard, but it is very important. I think Precious has been saying quite a bit, to show evidence that you are meeting the minimum requirement, that that scale that you are using is doing the function that which it is set for. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from Anonymous. Can you submit a self-inspection more than once a year?
Yes, the system will allow you to submit more than once, but our requirement is that you do it annually, and we will have a point where we draw the report and would be able to see who has complied and who has not complied.
Thank you. Does the self-inspection results appear on the online profile after the inspection, and how can I access it?
From our side, we are able to see what your inspection results have been, and I know that you should also be able to see your grading from your own self-inspection. If you are not able to see it, then it means there's something wrong, but you should be able to see at the end of your own self-inspection, how did you fare and where are the areas of concern. There should be an inspection grading that appears on your site. Even from where we are sitting, we're able to see how you assessed yourself.
Thank you, Precious. A question from Sammy. With regards to the CPD of all registered pharmacy personnel, please may you give an indication on which type of evidence is applicable, electronically or hard copy?
CPDs, remember, they are done electronically, and maybe Zianda is best suited to deal with this, but I've seen when inspections, I was in a position to shadow one of the inspectors earlier on this year, and I know that RPs are able to make a printout of what CPDs each person or each of their staff members has done, and they're able to file that. But Zianda, maybe you can also add.
Thank you very much. I suppose this is talking, because we're talking about inspection, to the question about showing that CPD has been conducted.
Yes.
So Precious, you're correct. Just keep a file electronically is sufficient, but you should be able to show the inspector that the people in the pharmacy are undergoing CPD. However, perhaps I need to go a bit deeper here. If you are submitting your CPD as a pharmacist, please do not try and submit evidence. There's no part for you to submit evidence when you're submitting now on the South African Pharmacy Council's platform. But indeed, to just keep the evidence to show that you have undergone training for purposes of the inspection, you can keep it electronically. You must just be able to produce it to the inspector at the time of the inspection. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. Edabel asks, please could you clarify the documentation needed for the sister working in the pharmacy clinic? We are not sure what certificate she needs to have to give children's vaccination.
Zianda, can you attempt that one?
Now, you run a clinic and you offer services. We are hoping that the clinic, the nurse you have employed is registered with the nursing council to have the scope of practice to be able to vaccinate. And I believe that most pharmacists have done that. I'm happy about that. So they must be able to show their qualification, because it is in that qualification that would be able to determine that they may be able to offer that service. Now, again, I'm going to go just a step up. If the nurse is employed by the pharmacy, the RP takes responsibility for all the services right into the clinic. If the nurse is self-employed, they would have needed to have the Section 22A15 permit to be able to sort out that service, and another business in a pharmacy would need to have been approved. That's if the bill, after the patient is served, the patient pays the nurse and is not paying the pharmacy, because that means the nurse is running their own business inside your pharmacy. But if the nurse is employed by the pharmacy, the RP takes responsibility of everything that is happening there, including in the clinic, and the keeping of the stock thereof. I hope I have explained what documentation, because I know sometimes the nurses are employed by the pharmacy and sometimes the nurses are it's their business that they are running in there. And definitely then the pharmacy must then keep in line with the rule that talks to the counseling areas or to the consulting areas that must be there to run that service. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. Colleagues, please note that we will not be accepting any new questions from now on to enable us to answer all the questions up to this point. The next question is from Georgia Bowles. Is there a form, link, etc. as proof we attended one of these sessions?
I think that is for Mr. Mashishi. Maybe from the side of CSR.
Thank you. We will not be publishing any attendance register. However, should attendees require proof of attendance for work purposes, maybe they took leave, then we can provide that. They can just email us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mashishi. Cindy Sila asks, will inspections be scheduled and specific date agreed on with the inspector, or will the inspector arrive unannounced? This is in line with the COVID-19 protocols and rotational pharmacists present at the pharmacy. In particular, applicant, only pharmacies in office buildings.
Z?
Thank you. When inspectors are going to come to the pharmacy, up to this point with COVID, they have been advised to call. However, when they are advised to call, they are not making an appointment. It was to cover during the inspection. So that, especially, during COVID, to ensure that the pharmacy is not closed, maybe are in quarantine and all those, but the inspectors are not expected to make an appointment. The expectation that if you are running a pharmacy, you are offering those pharmaceutical services. Pharmaceutical services are not limited to just dispensing to a patient. If you are performing any one or more of the acts pertaining to your scope of practice or services that may be provided in that pharmacy, the expectation is that that pharmacy is providing that service. So the inspector would otherwise call and say that I'll be there in the next week, etc., and the inspector is supposed to then do so. I know that the practice committee 2 days ago has since made another decision about this matter, but once it goes to full council in May, that decision will be communicated to the profession. As of now, the inspectors, save for a disciplinary inspection, which is never announced, will phone or send an email to say, I will be coming at such and such a time. And the request is that we are not negotiating the time here and making an appointment. And it is in the RP's duty, under the circumstances and conditions which the RP may not be in a pharmacy, as stipulated in the GPP, that they have done the necessary handover to whichever other pharmacist will be in that pharmacy at that time to be able to run. Because remember, with an inspection, you are checking that whether the RP is there or not there. Even you as the RP, you would want that even if you are at home for a day or for a month or for a year, that pharmacy, as long as your name is attached to it, is running according to GPP. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from Tabo. How does it happen that a pharmacy license application fails or is turned down and 2 to 3 years down the line, another pharmacy mushroom at the same location with no changes of facilities within the area of license application?
I think this is a twofold question. When you're applying for a license, you're applying to the DG. Pharmacy Council does not approve a license. Pharmacy Council does GPP recommendation to the DG, and the DG may or may not issue that license. It is also possible that at the point of GPP recommendation, let's say you submit your application and DOH says, Pharmacy Council, go ahead and give us a recommendation. Is this pharmacy going to be compliant to GPP? We then send shortcomings to say, no, this you haven't addressed, this you haven't addressed. If you do not respond timeously according to the timelines of those shortcoming letters, or you do not correct such shortcomings, we may give the DG a non-recommendation to GPP. Again, the DG may or may not issue the license. So I would not be able to answer on the criteria that the DG applies on issuing the license. That is the function of the National Department of Health, and yeah, the role of council is merely GPP recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. A question from Facebook. Zelda Joseph asks, good day, what is the fee for indemnity?
Again, can people maybe look at the professional associations? Council does not offer professional indemnity covers. The GPP just stipulates that you have to have a cover. You can go either to a professional association or privately and search and then look at the prices there. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. Tanushia Pillay asks, a list of products types requiring special storage or handling instructions is available and consulted on receipt of stock. Where is this list available from? Did I repeat the question?
Special handling, no, I'm here. I just wanted to reorganize my thoughts on how to answer this one. Special handling will be according to manufacturer specification. So, for an example, thermolabel will fall here. If you stock vaccines that need to be kept at -30 degrees, you'd need to prove that you have such facility. If you stock, I'm trying to think of the different products that are out there, but let's not make many examples and limit ourselves. So the list is according to what you stock. So you have to make for yourself that list so that everyone knows that once these items come, even if you don't list them, yeah, with the list, to say these are the items. If this item comes, this is how you handle this. All of us handle different types of stock, which is why I wouldn't want to limit it to one thing. Others don't stock vaccination, others don't stock vacuolators, for an example. So the way you are going to manage that stock will have, but make sure as the RP that you have given proper directive to everyone that is there that will be handling the stock. That's basically what the point is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. If a learner basic assistant has not completed her studies in time and will probably not continue her studies, does he or she need to inform the SAPC, and how?
So they are not going to complete, right? Or it's anticipated that they will not complete. At this point in time, even though this is an education question, I'm going to try to answer it as clearly as possible here. At this point in time, we've got qualifications that are ending on the 30th of June. However, there is a teach-out period. Now, I'm worried if in the 3-year teach-out period, the person will not complete, because the time of saying the person must complete at a certain time in the old qualification is not there. There's no time limit, but within these 3 years of the teach-out period, 2025, 30 June, unless otherwise announced, if a person has not completed, then definitely they will be closed off. They would need to start afresh, right? or they may inform council that they are not willing to continue. However, I must warn, in the new qualification, by the way, education is going to come in at some point to start talking about the qualifications. In the new qualification that has been approved and that we are doing accreditations for, there is a time limit for a person to pass. So once they do not pass that qualification, the system itself kicks them out, that you may not continue, so that we do not have what we have called learners that are not completing. So yes, you may inform council, but it's more with your provider, because the information we get it with with the providers of the learners, of how far that their learners that they've taken in are completing or progressing. That's the word I was looking for in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. Tato from Zola asks, is it necessary to keep Moya and Pestal in CHCs, even though we are not performing any compounding?
Great question from Tato. I think it also takes us back to the sector or level of care specific questionnaires that we spoke to earlier on. As indicated to you colleagues, Council is in the process of reviewing or finalizing the primary healthcare questionnaire. So for now, Tato, the answer is the expectation is that you should have it, because for CHCs, I know we're using the institutional questionnaire. So as things stand, you are required to comply to what that questionnaire entails. But as soon as we have finalized the primary healthcare questionnaire, you will then be assessed based on that. And hopefully that would be aligned to the kind of services that are provided at that level of care. Thanks, Newo.
Thank you, Precious. We've come to the end of our questions. We don't have any more questions to answer. Do you have anything to add, Precious?
Not really, but I know that Zianda would have wanted to touch on what the COO indicated at the beginning of the webinar before we leave the platform. So over to Z.
Thank you so much, Precious. Thank you, Neo. Colleagues, we thank you for your time and for the apt questions, some of them being very direct, and I think Precious will take notes and submit to the necessary task teams what the profession is saying to us. I'm not sure now whether there is something I typed on the chat. I typed on the chat box, which is the MFL training sessions. I'm not sure if you can publish it so that those that have attended may be able to see it. But indeed, you are invited to attend Tuesday sessions between 12 and 2 o'clock every week. These sessions are being conducted for facility reps and etc. For issues of MFL, to ensure that we continue and continuously offer the good quality service that we have been offering when it comes to vaccinations. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Zianda. Thank you, colleagues. We have come to the end of our session. Should you have any queries, please don't hesitate to send us an email or at customercare@sapc.za.org. Thank you.
Well,